All right, for those of you that got here on time, we'll get started on time. I hear there's some traffic issues, but we'll get everyone caught up when we get here. So a couple of things. Anyone that has a cell phone, would you please turn it on mute? I have a habit of getting long-winded, so I set a timer that's going to start making a racket, so I'll know it's time to start winding it up. I'd like to thank the young lady with the blue shirt, Barbara McGuire. She is, I've known Barbara for probably coming on 2 decades now, more than that. We've known each other way back, and she is a wonderful person, but also she's the regional rep for Boron, homeopathic company. And on your seats, we have a lot of literature, and we got, courtesy of Barbara's Boron, everyone has, I'm going to be talking about it, a tube of arnica, which is something every single household should have in the medicine, not in the medicine cabinet, because you don't want the humidity, in your house. And also a tube of histaminum, which is a very, very effective homeopathic medicine for allergies and allergic reactions. So she thought those would be 2 things for anyone that isn't familiar with homeopathy to try. And I'll go into how to use them and what each one is for. So thank you, Barbara. And afterwards, we have, when we go upstairs, we have a lot of people on vacation, so we're a little scarce on help. So what I would ask is when we're done, if we could all get upstairs, because the Board of Pharmacy won't let all of the help go up as long as somebody's down here. And we'll be around to answer questions and help you, whatever you want to know. And Barbara's a fountain of information, so feel free to bug her too. She decided to come tonight, so we can bother her tonight. Something else I was going to say. Oh, we're recording this, so if you want to rewatch it, hopefully if everything works in the next couple of days, we'll have it up on our website. And if anyone would like to be on our mailing list, so you'll be kept current on our upcoming lectures, just leave your name upstairs and we'll get you on that list. We're going to be taking a little break for the summer on lectures and then start up again in the fall in September. And I'm not sure what the topics will be, but hopefully in the next month or 6 weeks we'll have on our website a calendar with a listing of the monthly lectures and the topics. And one of the areas we're going to be getting very involved in is I'm back in school again. I can't believe it. I could hardly wait to get out of school when I was in pharmacy school. But I'm back studying the genetics and the gene SNPs and the Krebs cycle and the methylation pathways. And we're having very, very good luck analyzing this to see where the genetic weaknesses are and putting it together with your symptomology and your lab tests to figure out maybe why you're doing the right thing and you're getting the wrong response, or why taking something like methyl B12 that you know you need makes you feel worse. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle, but it's very, very interesting. So that'll be one of the lectures. I'm not really sure when. Okay, so to start, the CEDH is a group, and they work with doctors and pharmacists. And when we put together a course, a wonderful gentleman named Christoph at Boron put together a wonderful education course for the pharmacists, and I was helping teach some pharmacists so there'd be more of us around to help all of you. And so I'm using a lot of their slides because it was an excellent slideshow. It has great information on why recreate the wheel. So thank you to Christoph and to the group there. How many of you have used homeopathy? Wow. What type of things have you used it for?
Surgery. A lot of pre-surgery.
Okay, pre-surgery.
Arnica all the time.
Okay.
The gel.
There's a whole bunch of surgeons, especially some of the plastic surgeons, that don't want to operate on you unless you agree to take Arnica montana before and after surgery. And one, it's very, very helpful, and 2, it makes them look better because you bruise less and you heal faster. So even if they did the surgery the exact same way, the person taking Arnica is going to get better faster which makes the surgeon look like he or she is even better. We have a lot of dentists and oral surgeons that require that, and it's wonderful stuff. So homeopathy is used worldwide. Anyone that you know, in Alston or Brighton, right on Comm Ave, there used to be the Hahnemann Hospital, right, like one block down the hill from Washington Street. That was a homeopathic hospital. And there were Hahnemann hospitals all through the country. And before pharmaceuticals came, a homeopathic hospital was the only place you could get medicine, homeopathic medicine. Pardon me?
When did they disappear?
They disappeared shortly after the pharmaceuticals came, because then we had real medicine that worked and we didn't have to use this hocus pocus stuff.
No negative side effects.
And also, it cost pennies to make, and so you can't make much, you know.
No profit.
One of the blue tubes sells for $7.50. So how much money can you really make if you sell 1 million tubes? You know, you still, compared to some of the drugs that are $600 a month. So the profit isn't there. Also, we set up the testing for the pharmaceuticals to make sure they were safe was set up a certain way. And now what we try to do is we try to make everything conform to that. So with homeopathic medicines, it uses different mechanisms. So if you put it into that type of testing, it fails. So of course, that proves that it doesn't work, but it really doesn't. It would almost be like taking a high blood pressure medicine if you scraped your foot and had an infection. Does that mean all high blood pressure medicines are useless? No, you're using the wrong medicine for the wrong cause. And it doesn't mean it's ineffective. It's ineffective for what you were using it for. So anyway, throughout the world, homeopathy is huge. And a lot of, yes?
So even though they went by the wayside, here in the United States, there's still 5 of them in the UK, is that?
Yeah, well, colleges and hospitals, but in Europe and even South America, a lot of the medical schools teach homeopathy as part of their education. So a lot of the doctors will use homeopathy first, and then if it doesn't work, because nothing works 100% of the time, they go on to the pharmaceuticals. And if you go, when you're in France or in Italy, you go into a pharmacy, and there's a pharmacist there who's trained, and you can have an appointment with him, and he figures out what's the right remedy for you. It's not automatically prescription medication, pharmaceuticals. And so homeopathy is really big, and throughout most of Europe, most of the people are very familiar with it. Here, now it's becoming more familiar. I was surprised how many people have used it. But it's growing, and parents are bringing their kids up with it. And then when the kids go off to school, I know with my kids, I would get a call, or I apologize. You don't get calls from your kids anymore. I would get a text or an email, and it would be, I woke up last night with a sore throat, it felt like this, it's better with that, and they all had a kit of homeopathic remedies. I started taking XYZ remedy, just checking to make sure that's the right one. They didn't run to the health service and get penicillin. And so it is changing. The World Health Organization feels homeopathy is one of the systems of traditional medicine that should be integrated worldwide with conventional medicine to provide adequate global health care. If we start using homeopathy and lifestyle changes, short money, it's a lot of work because you have to change your lifestyle, our healthcare expenses can go way, way down, quality of life and productivity go way, way up, but it's not advertised that much because there's very little profit in it compared to the pharmaceuticals. So the pharmaceuticals are busy hammering the doctors, and on TV you have 2 people in the bathtub sitting at the end of the dock. Who would want to sit at the end of the dock in a bathtub holding hands? You know, how great is that for? But that's why it's slow to catch on, but the consumers are really demanding it now. And if you look at it, a lot of the stores, I was surprised, my daughter went to school out in upstate New York at Syracuse, went to a Wegmans for the first time, and they had a big section of homeopathy, which blew me away. And now you can find it in a lot of, you know, the big stores. Not a great selection, but some of the basics. Okay, one of the things I hear all the time is homeopathy isn't regulated. The FDA has no idea about homeopathy, and they have no say in homeopathy. And I personally would like to refute that. Homeopathy has been regulated by the FDA since long before pharmaceuticals. The HPUS has been around since before the penicillin was found. The FDA has classified remedies as drugs, as medicine, and the FDA has been regulating them more years than they have the drugs, the pharmaceuticals. The HPUS, very, very strict of what raw material to use, how to make the remedies, how they have to be handled, how they have to be stored, how they have to be dosed, and what they can be used for. Which, if you think about it, when you start looking at some of the ads for some of the pharmaceuticals, they really push the envelope on what they say it's going to do. So homeopathy is regulated, and the homeopathic companies, the majority of them have themselves licensed as pharmaceutical companies. And that way they're held to the same standards as Eli Lilly and Merck. The FDA can show up at any time for a surprise inspection. They have to have all the documentation and testing. So to say that the FDA has nothing to do with homeopathy, is a totally unregulated industry, is crazy. Now, there are some companies on the internet, just like with everything else, that are busy, take this, it'll cure, and they list everything. That's who the FDA should go after and should shut down and put them out of business. But the legitimate companies, if the rules let them go to this level, most of them go to this level as far as claims. They stay way below. And as far as what they're required to do to meet the FDA's requirements of manufacturing, most of them raise the standards even higher on their own because they want to make a good product. So very, very safe, effective if you get the right remedy.
Gary, can I ask you a question along
Yes.
those lines? Now that it is becoming more mainstream, is Boron still an independent company? I mean, it is the best.
They're not owned by a big conglomerate or a big pharmaceutical company. They're an international company. They're based out of France.
Oh, they're French.
And they're in, I think, almost every continent in the world. And also, Boron now is the #1 homeopathic company in the world. And they've done that, I think, by going slow and steady and being conservative and not making wild claims. And what's interesting, if you all have the Easy Guide, which is great for an introduction, it gives you some hints on some remedies, but also everyone has a little card. They developed an app. Of course, everyone has an app now. And you can download it on your smartphone, and you can put in your symptoms. And if it's an acute condition, they narrow down the hundreds of remedies to make it easier for you to choose a remedy. And even on that, we've done some videos, some little like YouTube videos about the different remedies. And I've done a lot of them, so you can find me when you click on a remedy and have a smile, I hope, and enjoy it. But it's amazing, Boron's legal team, they had to get the script for a 30-second thing on arnica approved by their legal department because they wanted to make sure that it's way below the boundaries. And if I changed, because reading a script and talking, and we're from New England and they're from down south, you talk differently. So some of the flow, just the words didn't flow right. So I would add a the, or change something from instead of heat to warmth, and it got thrown out. Can't do that. This word is approved. And so very, very careful what they claim. So in any of their literature, like everything about arnica that's in here, there's no stretch of the imagination. They can document that the FDA and the FTC will approve, everything they put out is approved by the FDA and the FTC. So I wish they would be able to give more information, but they don't want to cross any of the lines. Okay, so one of the problems that I found people have with homeopathic medicines and picking one is that there isn't a medicine for a disease state. There's a medicine for a group of symptoms, for the picture of how you feel. And an example is, if you go, when you go upstairs and you look at our buddies all up there, holding the blue tubes, there might be 9 remedies for sore throat. Whereas a mainstream, if you have a sore throat, you have a sore throat. It's just a sore throat. But if you have a sore throat, if you think about it, sometimes drinking warm fluids makes it feel better. Sometimes ice cold things make it feel better. Sometimes eating mushy food makes it feel better. And sometimes you want a burnt piece of toast and you don't want to chew it and you want it to go down, and it's better with scratching. There's different remedies for each of those symptom pictures. So if you picked a remedy that just says sore throat, but it's not for your type of sore throat, it's probably not going to do any harm, but it won't work. And then people say homeopathy doesn't work. Again, you have the wrong medicine for the wrong condition. So, how do they do it? Well, Belladonna is from the deadly nightshade. It's poisonous. If you had a pharmaceutical dose of it, it would kill you. So, but if you took a lower dose, you would feel your mucous membranes would dry out. You'd feel like you were in the desert. You'd have a real pounding, congestive headache. Your face would turn beet red. Belladonna makes the blood vessels dilate. You'd be very sensitive to pain. You'd probably start hallucinating, maybe convulsions. You'd have a high fever that just 1 minute you were fine, the next minute you had a high fever, very, very sweaty, and feeling very inflamed. And that's what happens if you took Belladonna. Homeopathy ultra dilutes it way down. So when we think of using Belladonna, think of these symptoms. So somebody with a sudden onset of a high fever, they have a red face, they're sweating, their mouth is very, very dry. It can also be, so that could be from the flu or a bad infection, right? Those type of symptoms. It could also be from sunburn. You have those same symptoms with sunburn or infections or sunstroke. What about a woman having hot flashes? Isn't that how she feels sometimes? So Belladonna, really you shouldn't think of it for just sunburn. That's the remedy just for sunburn. Belladonna is for sweaty, real bad headache. You're very sensitive to everything, to the lights and to sounds. Your mucous membranes dry out, your mouth is bone dry, your nose, your eyes are dry. And that's when you would use Belladonna homeopathically. What happens when you get stung by a bee? What does it look like? Swollen, pink, hot. Better with putting something hot on or ice? Better with cold. That's when we use Apis. When it's pink, it stings, it burns. So that can be used for conjunctivitis, sore throat, sunburn, or joint pains, if it matches that description. Sometimes when a joint hurts, you're better off with heat on it. You wouldn't use Apis. But if it's pink, it's swollen, and it's better with cold, and it itches or stings, think of a bee. And that's when you would use homeopathic Apis. So do you see how we go by the picture, not so much by, it's not just for bee stings. So if the skin's pink, it stings, it burns, relieved by cold, you would use Apis. All right, Gelsemium. Now this is a great remedy. It's used for a lot of things. So Gelsemium, if you're taking pharmaceutically, you're taking full strength, it makes you drowsy, sleepy, you can't get up out of bed, you have headaches, your head feels full, you're incoordinated, you might have diarrhea, and you just can't get moving. And think about, when does that happen? How about when you have the flu? Gelsemium is a great remedy for the flu, especially at the end of the flu, when you get better, but you just can't get over it. Now, another thing that's interesting, Gelsemium is also good for nervous apprehension. Some people, when they get up in front of a group, have to go to the bathroom all the time. They're real nervous. They start sweating. They get exhausted. You take Gelsemium for the anxiety, the apprehension. So it doesn't have to be just for the flu. It's a picture of the symptom. Nux vomica. If you take that pharmaceutically or in a higher dose, you get very excited, irritable, noise, light, smells. I like to think of Nux vomica, almost think about when you have a hangover. You want to be in bed, the covers pulled up, the shades down, the door closed, and just everyone leave me alone. Because anything or everything bothers you. That used to be used as, I used to work in Alston, so Nux vomica was the helper. So if you think of hangover, so worse in the morning, you have nausea. So that can be for, and we'll show you, it can be for a runny nose, it can be for digestive troubles, irritability, too much partying. So Nux vomica, the excesses, too much eating, drinking, and partying. So the symptoms you have. Or it could be from a GI bug, you have those same feelings. In the same symptom picture, you would use Nux vomica. So homeopathic medicines, homeo, same, pathos, suffering. So if you gave a higher dose and you looked at the symptoms that developed, the homeopathic diluted medicine would be what you would use if you had those symptoms. And Samuel Hahnemann was the father of homeopathy, and he was a doctor, and he wound up getting out of medicine because he realized he was causing more harm than he was helping, because back then they would either use leeches bleeding you or give you heavy metals and poisons like mercury salts trying to kill infections, and he was killing more people than he was saving. So he said, that's not why I became a doctor. So he spoke a whole bunch of languages, and he started translating a lot of the old literature, and he started seeing some patterns. So if he was around today doing that, he'd be locked up, because what he did was he started with his med students and family and anyone that would volunteer, he started giving them small doses of something, like not lethal, like arsenic. And he cataloged, and this is all on paper, because there weren't computers back then, all the symptoms, mental, emotional, physical symptoms that started developing. And that's where the Bible that we use is called Materia Medica, and all that is still true today. So he did that. So one of the things he did was a bark, Cinchona. There's a homeopathic, there's a pharmaceutical medicine called colchicine that we use for malaria. And they also use it for gout. And so what he did was he started looking at what happened to the student that he was giving it to, and then he went out and tried to find someone with those symptoms and started giving them a very diluted amount of it, and the symptoms got better. So then he had an aha moment, I'm onto something. So we started using more and more things and diluting them. And if you go through some history, even World War II era and all that, and going back even before that, where the plague hit and where these terrible diseases went through Europe, or where there was a flood and they had real bad dysentery, the communities that had a homeopath and had homeopathic medicines came through it much healthier with fewer deaths. Over in India, when there's been floods after a tsunami, the areas that had homeopathy did much better than the areas that didn't. Yes?
So are you going to tell us why this works or something like that?
I can't give, if I could do a tap dance and give you a
No
mechanism
tap
of
dancing.
action, I'd be lying. I don't know how it works.
Oh, okay. So nobody
And
knows.
anyone that tells you exactly how it works is lying, because we don't know. I can tell you some of the thoughts behind it, and I'm going to show you some of the science behind it. But I'll flip it the other way. If you go online and look up randomly 10 drugs, 10 pharmaceuticals, and you get the actual prescriber information, you know, that big piece of wallpaper, probably 80% of the pharmaceuticals that we're using and we accept and they're perfectly safe and all that, on mechanism of action, the proposed mechanism of action is. So on the pharmaceuticals, we don't know, but we accept it because they're FDA regulated, so there must be proof how they work. And what really interesting, I graduated pharmacy school in '78. Anyone remember the drug Aldamet, or
Yeah.
methyl dopa?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very popular drug.
yeah.
2 days before we took our boards, we all got a registered letter that when you take the boards, use this mechanism of action for the answer, but they just proved that's false, and this is what we think the mechanism of action. So in practice, this is the answer to use, but on the board, since they've already been written, use this answer. So, and to answer that, I feel safer for a lot of things, especially acute conditions, using homeopathy, because the wonderful thing about homeopathy is it's either going to help or do nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas medicine, thank God we have it, but there's a benefit risk to every single drug because you're blocking a receptor site or stimulating something. Whereas homeopathy is working with your body to normalize the response.
Right.
So
Okay.
can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
If you don't have all of the symptoms, but some of the symptoms, do you still recommend it?
Yes, you don't have to have all of them, and if you want, when we go upstairs, I can bring out my copy of the Materia Medica. On Nux Vomica, it probably has 12 pages of symptoms. So you don't have to have all of them. There's mental, emotional, there's on the female side, the male side, but that's where using something like this little guide can just narrow it down. And I'll go into another thing that they have, like for indigestion, Boron makes a product called Acidil. It has 4 different remedies in it. So it's good for upset stomach, acid indigestion, bloating, heartburn. One of these remedies is probably the right one for you, but if you 4 have indigestion, each of these remedies might be the perfect one for each of you, and if you switch remedies, it wouldn't work. So what they do is they put together a blend of them so you'll get the relief. And then if you want, if it's a more chronic condition, you can try to figure out which is the right remedy and use the single one. The good thing is, the remedies the body doesn't need, you're wasting your time. They don't do any harm. So it works out really well to go with some of the combinations. Yes?
You know, in relation to that question that gentleman asked, I've been reading, I don't know if anybody else has done, some of the amazing research they're doing on water. And, you know, like water that's blessed, water that's not blessed, and water that they do different things to in very minute ways. And
Changes.
now they can look at these things with all these amazing cellular microscopes they had, which we didn't have even 20 years ago, let alone 10.
No, we'll go into a little bit
So,
of
so I just wonder, like,
the research. If you think about it, we're an energy machine. We're an electrical machine. And I gave a talk at an elementary school talking about it off the computer, why you have to go out and play, why eating good food and fueling the body is good, and why eating a lousy food, what it does. And at the very end, this little 3rd grader raised his hand and he said, you know what I think? I think nature gave us the best machine in the world, and we spend our whole life seeing if we can break it. That's what the kid got it. And so what homeopathy does, I like to think of it as, we all have a frequency in us, and this is Gary talking, but we all have a certain wavelength of vibration, electrical impulse, and we get off balance. And homeopathy, each remedy, because it's made from a natural substance, has energetics to it. And so it helps get us centered. And just simple thing, I hope a lot of you like to cook and eat. If you go out into your yard and pick the basil or the rosemary, it feels good, it's live. Then you bring it in and chop it up to cook with it. And I know I can't help but smiling, and you have to put a piece in your mouth. There's energy in there. If you use the dry herbs in your cabinet, it smells good, you know it'll taste pretty good, but you don't get that uplifting feeling. And I might be crazy, but I hope some of you understand that. If you go out into your garden or go to the farmer's market and get lettuce that was just picked compared to fresh lettuce that's a week old in the supermarket, it's different because the life force starts going out of it once you pick it, but there's still something alive there and there's some energy. And that's what I think homeopathy is all about, that energetics, and it's helping us get centered. Two limitations of homeopathy. The condition must be reversible. If you have complete kidney failure in one kidney, there isn't a remedy or a homeopath in the world that can help that kidney. That kidney is shot. It can't be reversed. But if it's something that could be made better, homeopathy could be helpful. Also, the treatment must be ethically acceptable. And the way I interpret that is, it would be totally wrong for me to say, if you take this product, you will never get this disease, or this will cure you. You don't know that. So any recommendations, it should be made from an ethical basis and realistic expectations. Maybe you'll exceed those expectations, but it should be in the realm of reality. So how are they made? They're all from natural substances, and depending upon the substance, it's either macerated, it's chopped up and put in either alcohol or water, whatever is the right thing according to the materia medica to make it, the HPUS, or it's ground up and soaked, and that makes the mother tincture. And that's the pure extract, and that's not what homeopathy, that's not what we take. Then it's diluted down, and you'll see on the bottles and vials, sometimes it says it might be a 12X or a 12C. X dilutions are 1 to 10. And so you take the mother tincture, add 9 parts alcohol or water, and that makes a 2X. Then it has to be succussed, shaken up a certain way. Then the 2X, you take 1 cc of that to 9 cc's of alcohol or water. That makes a 3X, and it keeps going out and out and out. So to get to a 30X, that's 30 dilutions, and each one has to be succussed. They used to take the bottle and be banging it on their hand a certain way, and then everyone was probably getting God knows what with their hands. Now man, thank God, has developed a machine that does that same thing and very fast, and they can make it more economically. The C potencies is 1 to 100, same process. The interesting thing is, if you have, let's say, a 6C, and you want to take a 12C dose, you don't take double the pellets. It's not like Tylenol, where you have 325 milligrams, you want double the dose, you take double the amount. Homeopathy, because it's diluted this way, 1 part to 10 or 1 part to 100, you can't just change the number of drops of tablets you're taking. It has to be diluted out and then made. You can get it in pellets, in tablets, and drops, and liquid unit doses. Like this comes like the sterile eye drops. This is for the baby, and there's eye drops somewhere right here in unit dose, preservative free. Syrup, suppositories, there's creams, arnica cream or gel. Arnica you can take inside, and I'll get into that, for bruising any soft tissue injury. You can also use it topically in a gel, a cream, or an ointment. And just a little story, my son did a header off the couch when he was a little kid, landed on the side of his face. He was okay, but he was screaming. And I was studying homeopathy at that time, so my wife ran to get ice while she's holding him, and I ran to get arnica. And so I got some arnica ointment, and I went over to him to rub it on his cheek, which was red at the time. And of course, he just wanted mommy, which is the way it should be. So I put my hand here, and he turned his face and buried his face into her neck. That was fine, and he was okay. The next day, we had yellow lines and black and blue in between. So the yellow line was where I got the arnica. And then, of course, my daughter thought, that was great, I want one, Daddy. Go take a header. But that made me realize how well it really works. If you're with arnica, with either the pellets or the gel or the cream, if you're out in the yard, and this time of year we're all weeding and getting the beds ready, and you bent over a lot, the back of your legs, your neck, your arms, maybe even up here from pulling the weeds, just take some arnica under your tongue, or rub some, or both, rub it on, and it's unbelievable how well it works and how quick it works. If you're going through any rehab after knee replacement, when you're going through physical therapy, putting arnica on before and after physical therapy, very, very helpful. Okay, there's more and more scientific publications. There's 40, this slide's a couple of years old. There were 4,700 referenced published studies on PubMed, which means they were in legitimate journals throughout the world. The Lancet Pediatrics, the British Medical Journal, Clinical Oncology. So there's a lot of studies out there. One of the problems is we all have too much to read. And so a lot of the mainstream doctors, when they pick up the New England Journal of Medicine, if there's a study on homeopathy, they don't have time to read what they have to read, besides some areas that are a little outside of their comfort zone. So they flip, they see it, yeah, that's interesting, and it doesn't get read. So a lot of doctors feel there's no studies, a lot of people do. They're out there. You can get on PubMed and just type in homeopathy, and you won't be sleeping for days. What the lady in the back referred to, there was a study done a while ago where they took some sodium chloride, that's salt, and homeopathic remedy is natmir, Nitrum muriaticum. They're all labeled in Latin names, so there's consistency. So they took water, froze it, and had some scientists look at the crystal, and they said that's water. Then they put a touch of salt in the water and froze it, and with the electron microscope they had them look at the structure of the crystallized water, and they said that's sodium chloride. Then they diluted it to a 30C potency, which is past Avogadro's number, going way back to high school. Avogadro's number is the point at which everybody agrees it's been diluted so much there's not even one molecule left. And they gave them crystals from that water, and they said, yep, it's twisted a little bit, but it's definitely sodium chloride. Then they diluted it out to a 200C, and they did the same thing, and unanimous, they said, yep, that's sodium chloride. How could it look like sodium chloride when we're so far past where there could even be one molecule? So the hypothesis on what's going on, which maybe will help that gentleman's question, is that it's a living substance, it's a natural substance, and it imparted some energetics. It put something into the water. Because if there's no molecules of sodium chloride, how could it crystallize and look like sodium chloride? So some information was given. So I like to think of it as maybe it's an information that's being given to our body. And you know, Mother Nature's a smart bird if we would only work to her, with her. Okay, so how do you pick a remedy?
I'm sorry. The last slide, was that for natmir, those symptoms?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've done it with other remedies. They also looked at different cells in the blood, and then they would stimulate them, like a mast cell releases histamine. So they would use a homeopathic remedy and give the stimulation to the mast cell, and they would use a higher dilution and stimulate the mast cell, and they could see a definite cause and effect, that it helped with it stabilize the histamine release. And they did this with all different cells in the body and in animals, not just in humans, because they didn't get in trouble experimenting on humans. But they did do humans, work with some of the cells from humans. So you have to select the right medicine. You want to select the right dilution. People come in and say, there's 6C, 12C, 30C, 200C. How do I know which one to use? And then how often do I take it? So just like the English language, for every rule, there's an exception. In homeopathy, some of the remedies are that way. Like histamine, the one you have, the studies show that around a 15 to 30 C works much better than lower or higher potencies. And why? Who knows? But that's the way it is. That's one of the exceptions. But in general, you use the lower potencies if it's just a local symptom, like sunburn. That's just on the skin. There's no mental, emotional side to it. You just got a little bit of burn. Local and general symptoms, you use a 9C or 12C, a mid-range potency. That's if you're getting some more, so you have the burn, but you might have a fever, or your face is sweaty, or you have a little bit of a headache. So that's a little more general, but you have the local symptom also. Then if you're agitated, you're hypersensitive to light, you have a red sweaty face, that has some mental emotional side. So you go more towards the 30C. Yeah.
So the more symptoms you have, the more dilute it is?
Well, yes. And homeopathy, that's why I lost a lot of my hair, because I came from the medicine side, medical side. Homeopathy, the deeper in the body, if you start having the physical, the local, the general, and some mental emotional side, you dilute it more, and it works better, which is the total opposite of the pharmaceuticals. And since we're so pharmaceutically based, that has to be false. But that was around beforehand. Maybe the medicine should be false. But
Gary, so
Yes.
does that mean if you took the 30C and you only had local symptoms, it would work?
no, it would work. If you can zero in on the right potency, it'll be more effective. But the main thing, and what I learned when I was studying homeopathy, is the first most important thing is to choose the right remedy. And if you have the wrong potency, you're going to get some activity out of the remedy. But the other side is, since we're used to the pharmaceutical side, I have a bad sunburn, or I bang myself, my leg is really bothering me. I don't want to waste my time on arnica 12C or 30C. I want 1,000C or 10,000C, and that probably isn't going to do much for the bruise, because this is local. Another way to look at it, think of an onion. If it's on the surface, it's the lower potency. The higher you go, the deeper in you go for the action. You still have a little of surface, but you go in. Now, someone who has a lot of mental, emotional symptoms, using a remedy constitutionally, which is, we're not going into that today, that you use the real high potencies, because you want to get real deep into the psyche and the body, not the surface. So for most things that you're going to use it for, the 6 to 30C. And then getting the remedy from someone who knows homeopathy, they can help narrow it down. The other side, if you are looking for Belladonna, let's say, or Nux Vomica, and you want the 30C and all they have is the 6C, buy it. Or if it's 2 in the morning, you have the 6C and you think you need the 30C, oh, the heck with it, I'll just be vomiting all night and feeling lousy. Take it, because you will get activity out of it. Okay. Nux Vomica. If it's mainly the nose, you wake up, and I have a slide on this, you wake up in the morning sneezing. The rest of the day you're pretty good, but every morning you wake up and you just sneeze and sneeze and sneeze. It's the 6C. But if you wind up being irritable, nauseous, real bad heartburn, that's much broader and deeper to go with the 30C. But if you only had the 30C, could you use it for your sneezing? Yes. 6C might work a little faster. Okay, we talked about how they come. They come in the multi-dose tubes that you guys have. There's 80 pellets in each tube. I don't think they make them anymore, the unit dose.
Very few.
Yeah, they used to have a unit dose. They were very tiny poppy seed pellets, and you take the whole vial. Oscillo still come. Anyone use Oscillo Carcine? That's a unit dose vial. You just dump it under your, place it under your tongue. They come in lacto-based tablets. For a lot of kids, that's good, because you put it under the tongue and it hits the saliva and it dissolves. Yes?
What do you do when you're allergic to dairy?
Are you allergic where anaphylactic, or it makes you GI symptoms?
It's yes and yes.
Okay.
It's not anaphylaxis, but it turns into an asthmatic
Okay,
bronchial thing.
then you should go with the liquids,
Thank you.
because that's lactose and sucrose.
Because I always have trouble when I take the tablets, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Well, you might want to try the pellets, because the pellets have less lactose in them.
okay.
But most people that just, if they have ice cream, they get gassy or crampy, they don't have a problem with the pellets, because there's very little in there, but there is some. So if you're very sensitive, you use one of the liquids. And we talked about it comes in syrups and suppositories and gels. Okay. So we talked about how to select the dose, the potency. and the medicine a little bit, and I'll go into specific remedies right after these slides. If you can start a remedy at the very beginning, when you first start getting the symptoms, with Oscillo, everyone should have a box of Oscillo in the cabinet, the closet at home. And hopefully every 6 years you throw it out, because you never got the flu, and you don't need it. Best money you ever wasted. But if you do get sick, if you can start something like Oscillo, when you first start feeling that bones aching, the fever, and the flu symptoms, take a vial every 6 hours. You can, a lot of times, head it off before it develops and you're fine. So starting early is much better. If you get slammed with the flu, or you don't have Oscillo, and by the time you get to the store, you have the high fever, hopefully you send somebody else down so you don't infect all of us. You still take it every 6 hours, and it does help lessen the severity of the symptoms, and some of the studies, it shortens the duration. Going back to clinical studies, I forget what state it was, but somewhere in the central part of the country, north, I want to say Michigan, but I'm not sure. They did a study 2 years in a row with kids in elementary school. And in certain classrooms, half the kids, when the flu hit, it was documented, this class is getting hammered with the flu. Half the kids got Oscillo, half got placebo. And they did this 2 years in a row. The majority of the kids that got the Oscillo were back, they had fever and symptoms for 2 to 3 days, and they were back in school by the end of the week. The kids who didn't take it, it was generally 10 to 14 days till they were back in school. And they repeated this with a different group of kids, different school, different year, and they got clinically, without any real variation, the same response. So that can't be a coincidence. Can we prove mechanism of action, exactly how it works? But to me, if you keep repeating something and you get the same results almost all the time, that's good enough for me. Okay, some guidelines. Children, my child only weighs 80 pounds. I'm supposed to take 5 pellets. How many pellets do I give him or her? Same dose. Because you're not talking milligrams. You take 2 pellets, or you take 5 pellets, or you take 10 pellets. From a business point of view, you take 20 pellets. You know, but so 5 pellets is enough. If there's only 4 left, because you dropped one, you take the 4. One of the reasons it's more than 1 pellet is they're spraying the pellets with an energetic water, and in theory, a pellet could get missed. So if you just take 1 at a time, but it's not, you're taking 5 because 2 of them is, you know, a third of the dose, and you're trying to change the dose. So the harm is if you took the whole blue tube at once, you'd probably get a sugar buzz. If it was a kid, they'd be bouncing off the walls from the sugar. And parents would want to kill them, but they have to keep going out and buying a $7, $8 vial when that should have lasted for 2 weeks. So it's very, very safe. Take at the onset of symptoms, if possible. If not, if you use it, anytime you use it, no matter where you are, it's great. If you ever get in an accident or you go out and exercise and overdo it, ideally when you get back home, take your arnica. But usually we don't think of that till the next morning when we go to put our shirt on. You can't get your arms back. That's when to rub some arnica on or to take some arnica. You want to increase the frequency with the acuteness of symptoms. So if you got stung by a bee, take your Apis, and you can even take it every 15 minutes. With the histaminium you have, somebody sneezing, real itchy rash, you can take 5 pellets every 15 minutes until you start feeling better. One of the reasons that a lot of people have problems taking homeopathy is we're used to being lemmings, just being told what to do.
Yeah.
1 tablet every 8 hours until the bottle is empty. Whether you feel better or not, keep taking it. Homeopathy, you take it as you need it, and most of us don't understand, do I need it or not, because we're used to just being told what to do. So as you're feeling better, you space out the dose. But at first, if you're not feeling well, you can take it real close together. And you're not going to overdose. There's nothing there to overdose with. You want to take it in a clean mouth. So you don't want to be chewing on a hamburger and then throw the remedies on it. There's a lot of talk about mint and coffee, and I can't have anything to eat for an hour or two before and after I take it. And if you're taking it 4 times a day, your whole day is around figuring out when to eat and when to take your remedy. Realistically, if it's not a life and death situation, I tell people nothing in the mouth for 10 minutes before and after the remedy. As far as the mint, one of the reasons mint might affect, and this is Gary talking, but talking to a lot of homeopaths, a lot of things constrict blood vessels. Caffeine does, mint does. So if you brush your teeth with a very minty toothpaste, you close down a lot of the capillaries, then you put something on the mucous membrane trying to get it absorbed through the capillaries. So you basically locked the door and then said, let me in. So do you have to use a different toothpaste? If you like one that doesn't have the mint, but don't brush your teeth and take a remedy, or don't take a remedy and immediately brush your teeth. Give it 15 minutes. You know, life's short, but give it a few minutes. You can dissolve the pellets of the tablets. Some people don't want to put it under their tongue, and a little bit of water, and then put the water in your mouth and hold it for 10 or 15 seconds and swallow. It can be done that way. The pellet dispenser. So boron, can I just borrow one of the tubes? Years ago, the blue tube was the blue tube, and you opened it up, and it was open. And you poured 5 pellets into the cap, and then of course you pour antenna there, so then you're busy doing this for 10 minutes trying to get the right amount. And also you could knock the vial over and all 80 pellets go all over the floor. So they came out with a high-tech little gadget in there. You hold it upside down, and each time you turn the clear cap, 1 pellet comes out. Problem is, the vial's tiny, and it tells you how to do that, but as you get older, you can't read it. That's not their fault, it's just it's a small vial. So what a lot of people do is, if it's banging it and it won't come out, then they take some tweezers or a knife and a screwdriver or pliers, and then you finally bend it and it snaps and all the pellets go flying. So just turn the top. Very, very easy.
Oh, that's worth it, the whole evening.
And people ask, what about storage? The medicine cabinet, we don't really call it a medicine cabinet anymore. You shouldn't keep any medicine in the medicine cabinet in the bathroom. The high heat and the humidity kills it. Homeopathy, we want the pellets to dissolve. So if you have it in a humid bathroom all the time, you're going to wind up with a lump of your remedy. So you want to keep it away from strong odors, away from, it's the high heat, over 115 degrees for long periods of time that can have an effect on it. A lot of people say, I need to take my remedies with me and I'm flying to Florida, but it's going to go through the X-ray, and X-rays will destroy the remedy. And I don't know. But I have a kit, a homeopathic kit that's about 15 years old, and my parents are in Florida, and we go down 3 or 4 times a year, and that kit has gone through the X-rays all the time, and the remedies are still working. Another thing to think about, when you're flying in an aluminum tube at 500 miles an hour, way up there, there's more radiation you're being exposed to than going through the scanner at the airport. So you get all paranoid and argue with TSA about the remedy going through the scanner, and then it's getting exposed up there. So I wouldn't really worry about it on that end. Okay, so this slide I left in here. Do you have to use either medicine, pharmaceuticals, or homeopathy? No. You can use either or a combination. For acute things, try the natural way to help the body first before you hammer it with a drug. If you're on some medicine, you can use the homeopathic remedy to help the body respond better, and you might be able to use a lower dose of the medicine along with your doctor because your symptoms are better. So it doesn't have to be either or. Lastly, with some of the real serious medicine, we use homeopathy. People into chemotherapy, the remedies are phenomenal because they don't want you taking anything because it might interfere with the chemo, and they're giving you toxic medicine to help with the cancer, and you don't want to take anything that might change the effectiveness. but for the nausea and the vomiting and the indigestion and all that, or constipation or diarrhea, homeopathic remedies can be very good. There's a study in Europe, they use calendula. Women who were having, there was a study done on women with breast cancer that were getting irradiated, and they were putting a calendula ointment on every day, not right before the radiation, either right after, or if you're going in the afternoon, you put it on in the morning once a day, and they found that there was much less skin irritation and radiation burn. And very, very effective. It's available through Europe. The FDA doesn't approve that indication in this country, so somehow when you cross over the Atlantic, it stops working. But if you look at what's available there in the studies, we have a lot of women and a lot of oncologists or radiologists that are recommending that women use that, and the trick is to use it at the beginning before you start getting the radiation burn. It'll help once you get it, but then you keep irritating it with the radiation. It doesn't have to be, the study was on breast cancer, but it's radiation anywhere, any type of radioactive radiation therapy. Okay, so advantages of homeopathic medicines. 200 years of track record of safety and effectiveness. How can you beat that? You know, how about when a new drug comes out and perfectly safe, non-habit forming, very few side effects, and then 3 years later, there's black box warnings, and you hear all the lawyers, if you've been injured by this drug. Homeopathy, they have 200 years of tracking it. So, not too shabby. We can't say that on the drugs. Can be taken without risk at the onset of symptoms, no side effects, no drug interactions, cost effective. Another important thing, a homeopathic remedy won't mask anything. So if you're on a remedy and God forbid you have to get rushed to the hospital, they do blood work, they do any type of lab test, they go to operate on you. What the doctor sees is who you really are and what's going on. This won't affect any of those or mask or change anything. If something changed, your body changed it. Homeopathy is assisting your body, it's not forcing anything. So very, very safe to take. So it facilitates the body's physiological reaction. It helps get the body responding appropriately. So now, if you have a headache and you go into the pharmacy, you go to the headache section, there's 3 drugs for headache. There's aspirin, there's Tylenol, ibuprofen, and acetaminophen, basically, all for headache. Homeopathy looks differently. They want to know the sensations. Modalities is what makes it better or worse. Better with cold, better with heat. Better with movement, better with rest. Concomitant symptoms and local tissues that are affected. Some examples. Do you have dry mucous membranes? Is your eyes aggravated by light? It's hot and sweaty. Where is it bothering you? The mucous membranes, the nervous system. So all that factors in to get a remedy. And talk about that. So now we'll go into some remedies. And again, I have a bunch of slides, and if anybody wants these, if you give us, you leave your name upstairs with your email, I can make a PDF of this and get it to you, because some of these are very, very good. Arnica montana acts on muscles and the cellular tissues. Very good for stiffness, aches, trauma, overexertion, any soft tissue injury, or overuse. Very, very effective. Also very good for the bruises and edema. If there's a fluid out of the system it's supposed to be in, the blood punched or banged, you have a black and blue mark, the blood escaped the capillaries. So it's in an area it's not supposed to be. Arnica will help the body reabsorb it, and that was those yellow lines. The black and blue is much, much better. Yes?
I've never seen the word Montana. Is that just because I haven't looked closely enough?
That's the full Latin name.
Oh, okay.
And so, but arnica, there's only one arnica.
Okay.
And just like apis, it's apis mellifica, but everyone knows it as apis.
Okay.
And it's
Thank you.
histaminum hydrochloride, not just histaminum. Okay, so for trauma and physical problems, to improve performance and recovery from exercise, arnica in a 12 to 30 C, and cinchona. Cinchona is a wonderful remedy. That's used for loss of bodily fluids. And again, cinchona isn't for just because you were out in the heat and you got dehydrated. Cinchona is also for after childbirth. There's a lot of fluids lost in childbirth. It's from bad diarrhea. You lose a lot of fluids. It's from getting severely or chronically dehydrated. So Cinchona is very good. So if you are out playing your kids, or you're out playing soccer, and in this heat, and you come home and you start getting sweaty and you have diarrhea and you're weak after each time you go to the bathroom, you're exhausted, that's the picture you'll see in the medicine guide for Cinchona. So that's a good remedy to take.
And how do you determine 12 or 30 on something?
Whatever you can get your hands on.
Okay.
And if you can only get 6, use it. Improved performance and recovery. Cooper Metallicum, very good for muscle cramps. And that could be from, usually we think of that from overexertion, but also people who have the middle of the night Charlie horses. Cooper Metallicum can be very helpful, along with taking some magnesium, regular vitamin magnesium. Roost tox, that's called the rusty hinge or the rusty gate remedy. If you have a gate in your yard that you don't use for a long time, it's going to get a little rusty, the hinges. So when you first go out there, it's real stiff, and if you just yank it open, you might break the hinge. But if you very gently start moving it, it'll loosen up. So that's when you use roost tox. It's improved by slow and progressive motion, worse by humidity. Think of the rusty hinge, the rusty gate. So a lot of people, next morning when you get up and you're real stiff, if you get up and you start walking around, by the time you get into the kitchen, you're a little looser. Or people with arthritis, they do the shuffle to the bathroom, and then by the time they walk around for 5 or 10 minutes, they're standing up straighter and can go up and down the stairs. Roost tox would be very good. So again, it's the symptom picture. Good for overexertion the next morning when you can't move, also good for arthritis.
Gary, why does humidity exacerbate the problem with joints?
Some people are better in Florida in the summer in the high heat and humidity. Other people, it kills them. So everyone's different. It's how the body's reacting. And that's why there's homeopathy, there's different remedies depending upon the modalities, what makes it better or worse, what the symptoms are. Tendons and sprains, root of grave. Now, roost tox was improved by motion and worse by rest. When you sit down in a chair and you're there for an hour or two, you get up, everything's locked up again, and you have to start moving. Root of grave is much better with continued, it's better with motion. You get improvement by movement, and the more movement, the better. With roost tox, it can, gentle movement makes it better, but too much. If you go for too long a walk, it's gonna flare up again. Whereas Ruta, you're better with constant movement. Roost tox, improved, again, very good for physical therapy. You have your knee done, they work that joint very, very slowly in gentle movement. So arnica and roost tox, very good for the rehab. Apis, if the area feels better with cold, it might be a little pink, a little warm, it's sore, it stings, and it's better with cold. Apis could help. Bryonia is if it's swollen and it's worse by movement. So again, there are combination remedies that have a lot of these in there, so you don't have to guess for which one to use. Blisters, cantharis. Can be a blister from your shoe didn't fit right. It can be a blister from a burn. But any type of blister, cantharis is unbelievable. I've seen it help absorb. You never want to pop a blister because then you're opening it up to infection. And so that's what the problem is, because then you can't get your shoe back on. But cantharis will help. You'll find the blister the liquid gets reabsorbed and it heals really fast. And ledum is if you get a black eye. Arnica, because you got punched and it was a trauma, but ledum is very good for the black eye, also from puncture wounds. And when you think about it, so ledum might help for mosquito bites, because that's a puncture wound. Very interesting. Blisters, we're still hypericum perforatum. Most people know it as hypericum. That's the arnica for nerves. And so people with a sciatic type pain, if you can show where the pain travels. Starts here, goes right down the outside of my leg. Hypericum could be helpful. Or if you have a pinched nerve here, and it goes down my right arm all the way to my thumb, or my pinky, if you can draw a line where the pain travels, hypericum can be very, very helpful. Lacnanthus, I can never pronounce that one. I don't know why they called it that. That's very good for a real stiff neck. You know, you ever have that happen where you get up and you just can't get your head up straight? Lacnanthus. Staphysagria for nice clean cuts, like surgical wounds. Staphysagria, very, very helpful for the healing of that and for the pain. Go back to Gelsemium, nervous apprehension, memory problems, tremors, weakness, vertigo, emotional diarrhea. Not emotional diarrhea, diarrhea from emotional upset. Ignatia amara, very, very good. That's another one that's very good for people with performance anxiety. What's very interesting, someone who needs Ignatia, they're great when they're being distracted. The minute the distraction's gone, all the symptoms come back. And away from this area, Ignatia is the premier grief remedy for people. It doesn't have to just be a death. It could be, this time of my life, this is not where I thought I'd be. Or you moved and you missed where you were. So a lot of grief, and Ignatia is very, very helpful for that. Argentum nitricum, very good for stress, nervous anticipation. Person's always agitated in a hurry. They dread the future. There's usually a lot of GI symptoms. And so we use Argentum nitricum also for gastric pain, belching, diarrhea, but also for apprehension, you know, when you have to get up for performance. Coffea cruda, made from the coffee bean. What would happen at night when you were going to sleep if you had 6 cups of espresso right before bed? You would be up all night. If your spouse or your significant other says, "What's the matter, dear?" you would probably chew their head off. Nothing! Leave me alone. Your mind is racing and going in overdrive. Coffea cruda is very good for the people who have sleep problems, and at the risk of sounding sexist, which I'm not, when women are going into menopause, they usually wake up, and because you're multitaskers, and if it wasn't for you multitasking, the human race would be gone. But women, when they wake up to go to the bathroom, they revisit all the things they've already decided on for tomorrow, just throw all those balls up and go through them to make sure they have everything lined up right. Whereas we get up and go to the bathroom and we say, "Yep, I got 6 things I have to do tomorrow," thought about them, came up with a plan, yep, good night, and we go right back to sleep. And that's why the world wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for the women, because nothing would have lasted. Yes?
On the different slides, you have like the 30C.
Yeah.
Now, all of these are basically pellets
They're either pellets or drops,
and drops.
or tablets.
Or
Yeah.
tablets, okay.
Yeah. So the Coffea cruda is for the overactive thoughts, the racing mind. And we have very good luck. Just 5 pellets on each time, and a lot of times slows the mind down. It can even be used during the day if you start getting that hypervigilance. And it doesn't make you sleepy, but if your mind slows down, you can fall asleep. Next, vomica, overindulgence, hangover, business worries, irritable, people who are waking up at 3 o'clock every morning. Sometimes Xrays can be helpful. Either that or Ambien, and then you can be like, Bruce Kennedy was it? You get arrested for driving around in your underwear. Hyoscyamus, sleeplessness with agitation, but hyoscyamus is an angry remedy. The person, the mental symptoms, they're angry, they want to fight, they can be very, very jealous. The whole world's against them. Stramonium, good remedy for the kids, when they have fear of darkness. One of the questions when I do a consult is, without a nightlight on, does the child need a nightlight? Also for nightmares, for the night terrors, stramonium is very, very helpful. Histaminum, you all have a vial over the 30C. Hay fever, conjunctivitis, allergic conjunctivitis, hives. You can use it. It's not a cure for poison ivy, but poison ivy is a histamine response. If you get a bad case of poison ivy Histamine should be part of your therapy, because that's gonna calm down the mast cells. We need histamine. Histamine helps us deal with allergens. And if you take antihistamines, you block the receptor site. The body wants histamine, so it makes even more. So a lot of people say, well, I got used to my antihistamine, it doesn't work anymore. What happened was the body's pushing back stronger than the antihistamine is, so it overpowered it. Histaminum allows the body to release histamine, but in a more normal, methodical level. So it can help you with the allergic reaction, because the body's doing that to try to clear out the poison or the allergen. So that is an excellent remedy, especially this time of year, because the allergies are awful. Allium sebum from the onion. You're in the kitchen, you chop an onion. What happens? Watery eyes, watery nose. What makes you feel better? Open the window, cold water. Isn't that some of the symptoms you have with allergies and cold? So if you have that burning eyes and the watery eyes and a real watery nasal discharge, think of the onion, Allium cepa. Sabadilla is very, very good. Anyone with allergies ever, yeah? When your tongue's trying to rub the top of the soft palate, Sabadilla is very good. There's a remedy grouping called Sabadil. Remember Sabadilla, Sabadil. It has allium, ambrosia, euphrasia, histaminum, and Sabadilla all together. Very, very good. Pellet, a tablet under the tongue, even every 15 to 20 minutes. Very helpful, good for little kids right through seniors. Nux vomica, the spasmodic sneezing, first thing in the morning, and the itching of the nose. You ever have an itch inside, not this part of your ear, but inside the ear, and you want to stick a pencil in to scratch it? Don't stick a pencil in or a Q-tip. Use Nux vomica. I'm not even going to pronounce that one, for the nose and eye discharge, where your eyelids get real irritated, your eyes are real swollen. That's very helpful, much better than using a steroid drop. Euphrasia for the burning discharge of the eyes, and nose discharge. The nose, you don't get red under here, but you're red all around your eyes because the tears are very irritating. And we're back to apis for bee stings. Bless you. Take some just a minute. Conjunctivitis with the burning and stinging. Hives, urtica urens, and our friend the bee, apis. Very, very helpful for hives. That's urtica urens, stinging nettle rash, which is that one. Improved by warmth. Sometimes a rash or an itch is better with cold. Sometimes it's better with heat. So urtica urens, aggravated with water, you get in the shower and it itches even more. Sometimes the rash in the shower feels better, and that's where the modalities come in.
So are those hives?
Nope, that's an
Okay, I
urtica
didn't think so.
stinging nettle type rash. Bug bites, lead 'em. Mosquito bites, because it's a puncture wound. And what's really interesting, people who take Leadum through this time of the year that are sort of the magnets to mosquitoes, and they blow up, they get welts, real big welts. Leadum can be helpful, apis can be helpful. Tarantula, and I'll show you some pictures, is seeing more and more spider bites. Spiders get into the houses more while we're sleeping, or during the day and get us at night. But a spider bite looks different. It has like a donut. It has a little center, and usually it's blue or very dark. And Cantharis for blisters. There's a spider bite. Tarantula cubanus would probably be helpful. And there's another one that starts getting blue. And you can see the bite in the middle. You have that or that, Cantharis, you'd be amazed at what it does. Yes?
Also good for urinary issues too.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you look at, she said it was very good for some urinary issues, for the burning and sinking and frequency. But if you look at the description of the modalities and the symptoms, it's the same symptoms and feeling you would get with the blisters. And so again, it isn't just for blisters, it's for this picture of symptoms, so it can be used all different parts of the body. Motion sickness this time of year. So you put Dramamine on or scopolamine patch, and you usually don't get nauseous, but you sleep right through the cruise of the airplane ride or the car. So there's different remedies depending upon what type of nausea you have. And so cocculus is the dizziness, faintness, improved by heat and worse by seeing things moving. Now if you think about it, when you're in the car and it's a summer day and you're in the back seat and you start getting nauseous, who would think to turn the heat up? But some people would want it warm. You put, let's remind me, it's time to wrap up soon. So we're right on time. So this cocculus indicus, tobacco from tobacco. Anyone, and you don't have to raise your hands because I'm sure none of us are smoking anymore, but if any of us ever smoked, the first time you smoked a cigarette, you coughed, you got nauseous, and you went to get outside to get fresh air. And so tobacco, you're pale, you're salivating, you're nauseous, you might have hot palps, and you want to be by the window with the air from outside blowing on you. That's different than the cocculus. Petroleum, better closing your eyes. Sometimes when you're nauseous, you're better off focusing on something. So that's how you differentiate. Ipecac, you're nauseous. For Ipecac, and we use that a lot for morning sickness, I ask people when they're nauseous, I find you swallowing a lot, you're getting a lot of saliva in your mouth. If you are, Ipecac can be very helpful. And so that's one of the, Ipecac in pharmaceutical strength we use for poisoning. You would drink it and it would make you vomit. That's off the market now.
Oh, is it?
But homeopathic Ipecac is for vomiting. It helps vomiting, not induces vomiting. Good point. Next, vomica. You're very remember you were sensitive to everything. You want to be in a room with everything off. If you're having motion sickness and everything's bothering you, the cold, the noises, people talking, smells, you go by, you're up north and you're going by one of the fish places where they're frying fish and like you want to die instead of salivating. Because from New England, you salivate from fried food. Borax, seasickness. Borax is great. That's a good remedy for even in airplanes. You see up and down motion, not so much sideways by just sitting in the car, but also the amusement park rides. You know, I loved it when we took the kids to the amusement park. Yeah, Dad'll take you on that. Right? It's a borax moment. Okay, so that's that. Now, let me just turn this off so it won't be a distraction. I'm going to finish up with just going through a few things. We talked about Oscillo, this cold calm. That has like 8 different remedies and very good for most of the cold symptoms. So instead of trying to figure out, do I need Nux vomica, do I need allium, do I need this, do I need that, when you don't feel good, you don't want to spend the time. You can come and ask us and give us this description of your symptoms and we might narrow it down, but I grab this one a lot because very effective, easy to use, the whole family can use it. Another thing I wanted to mention, we have cold calm like this and cold calm for children. And there's Oscillo and children's Oscillo. Exact same product. Problem is parents won't give it if it doesn't say children on it. And then the adults won't take it if it does say children. You don't need one of each, you just need one of them. For the babies, this stuff is a lifesaver, the colic, the gas, and the irritability. And they're in unit doses, so while you're holding the screaming kid, arching his back, you twist off the top, it's just a little bit in distilled water, and you squirt it in their mouth. Very, very good. Chamomile is very good for teething. For the irritable kid, it helps with getting the teeth out, but it helps with the irritability and the pain and the inflammation. And I kid around with the mothers, after the baby's been up 6 times at night, give the baby one and you take one because it'll help calm you down. For on the women's side, they make products for the menstrual cycle, for cramping and for the other PMS symptoms. They also just came out with a lifesaver. How do they pronounce it?
Acteon. Acteon.
Okay, Acteon. And this is very, very good. It has the remedies for hot flashes. And one of them is guanoinum, which is nitroglycerin. And if you think about it, people who take nitroglycerin under their tongue for the heart, they usually complain about a real bad headache. And homeopathically is in here to relieve the sudden hot flashes with profuse sweating and throbbing headaches. Interesting. Acidil I talked about, gasalia, bloating and gas. And this, if you're getting bloating and gas, there's a digestive issue. If it's chronic, you need to talk. But if you just get gas once in a while, when you get a little gassy, put a couple of these under your tongue and it can help the body dissolve the gas. Makes you much more comfortable and works fast. Is homeopathic. We had the eye drops, the Optique 1 in unit dose. There's also some in a bottle by another company. This company, this one is allergy, so it has, we talked about Apis euphrasia and Sabadilla, all the allergy symptoms. This one has that in it, plus other remedies, so it's a little broader spectrum. We did Sabadil Sinisalia for the sinuses. We have a formula, the New England Allergy Mix. It's made from the pollens in New England that cause problems. Very, very good, very, very helpful. And what I love about it is, and most homeopathy, it puts itself out of business because it's not forcing a symptom down. It's helping you feel better, but it's getting the body to respond. If I'm sneezing now, and none of you are, we're exposed to the same allergens, my body's over-responding, yours is dealing right. So I can suppress my symptoms, or how about if I can find a way to get my body to respond properly, and my symptoms go away. Pull out products to try to hit a lot of common things. Hemorrhoids, much better than Preparation H, suppository and topical cream. And it helps with the symptoms, but it also helps shrink and helps with the healing of the hemorrhoids. Talked about arnica, and you have samples of it. Then there's some combinations, and I'm just going to rattle off some names, and then we'll do questions and go up, and if you want to look at products, I'll help you find them. There's an aches and pains, which has a lot of those trauma remedies. There's one for headache, there's a detox, there's anxiety, stage fright, cold hands and feet. It used to be called Raynaud's, or it is, but the FDA won't allow that on the label, so they call it cold hands and feet. Diarrhea, focusing, colic, bone repair, feminine complaints for symptoms associated with itching, burning, dryness, irritation, soreness, discharge. Very, very helpful. Traveling, homeopathy is wonderful for jet lag. And so this is a combination of about 12 remedies, but depending upon what your symptoms are, you can go with a single remedy. And lastly, is my mentor had formulated this. It's called Hydrate 2, and that's very good for people. Some people are sipping water and doing everything they can, and they're still dehydrated. That helps at the cellular level to get the body to start absorbing the water. You just add it to your bottle of water.
Oh, what was that again?
It's called Hydrate 2. Okay. All right, and that's my talk, and I keep you here till midnight. So anybody have any questions for down here? Yes.
Just a quick one. I can understand the pharmaceutical industry and people, trying to make money, pushing back against this type of medicine. The doctors who are just in the business of trying to get people to feel better, how come they spend so little time on it and
Excellent.
almost really push back against it?
Excellent question, and I'll tie that into naturopathic medicine and functional medicine. It has to do with what we're doing with healthcare. And I can sit down with someone, if it's not just a simple thing like you got bit by a bug and I'll give you Apis or something like that. If it's a little more in depth, my appointment with you might be, usually it's an hour. And with what the doctors get paid, if they spend 10 minutes or 3 hours with you, they get the same little fee. And they really are getting clobbered on the fees. So to do a holistic type care, I want your history, not just give me your symptoms, I'll give you something to suppress it. So it's more a time effort. That's why a lot of the doctors have dropped insurance and gone to the concierge. A lot of people were saying they're doing that just because they want to make a fortune. But a lot of them are the real good doctors that say, I'm not practicing medicine anymore, I'm not helping anyone, and I can't do it in the current model. And over in China, the Chinese herbalists, they get paid for your well visits. They don't get paid for sick visits. And if you get sick, that means the doctor didn't do his job. And so he has to treat you and not get paid, but he gets paid for keeping you healthy. And it's healthcare, but it really isn't. We're sickness treatment. And so, different things. If you are, I'm not going to pick on you, but if a gentleman is getting up and urinating 4 times a night and he's 58 years old, they say, gee, for someone your age, anyone heard that? For someone your age, that's not bad, or that's normal. It's common, because we're all sick, but it's not normal. But nobody's going to spend the time because they can't keep the office open. So that's why also I hear a lot, if that was valid, we would have heard about it in medical school. And a couple of doctors I know really well for decades, there was one psychiatrist, I said to him, so you don't use Prozac or any of the SSRIs? And he said, that's all I use. I said, but when you were in medical school, they didn't even know about it. We didn't learn about it. So how is that valid? And he said, well, it's made by a pharmaceutical company and the FDA approves it. So I know it's valid. So it's more time and being able to practice and make, everyone's entitled to make a living. So I think that has a lot more to do with it. Also, they'll ask the drug rep, or they go to a meeting, and there's never meetings on homeopathy, because if you're a doctor, and it used to be worse, they would take you to St. Thomas for a week for CE. Boron, if they sell every single vial of remedy that they have in their production line, isn't going to equal what a drug company probably makes in a month on one of their blockbuster drugs. They can't afford to educate you the way they, and most doctors, and I find with pharmacists too, if we're offering a weekend, 8 hours for $200, but there's no CEs to it, for your boards, they're saying, no, I'm not going to go. I can go listen about Lipitor and get CEs, and they'll give me a good dinner. And it doesn't cost me anything. So they're not looking for the education. They're looking, what do I have to do to keep my license active in the shortest amount of time for the cheapest money? And so, I don't want to sound so cynical, but I think that's it. Yes?
But Gary, the reality is that all of this is extremely expensive. And the question I have is like Rite Aid is a Canadian-owned company. Are they moving towards putting naturopaths in their pharmacies?
What's really interesting.
Is anybody doing that?
But no. And Canada was the model.
Yeah.
They had the best, the most stringent regulation, but the greatest availability.
Right.
And now we have more available natural products than are allowed in Canada over the last couple of years. That's going this way. Out of that, there's a group called Codex, which is the international pharmaceutical companies. They're introducing legislation everywhere to make all natural products and holistic products only available either on prescription or made by a pharmaceutical company, because then quality is guaranteed. And in this country, they've been introducing legislation. Remember way back, I think it was in the first first Iraqi war, our soldiers were over there in Humvees that didn't have any armor plating, and they finally were passing a piece of legislation to appropriate the money to get metal plating in the Humvees for the soldiers. They buried in that a bill, the Codex bill. So now there's people up in Washington combing through every single proposed bill, because every once in a while they try to get that legislation put in. And if you think about it, and again, I'm trying not to be cynical, but the drug companies are contributing to just about everyone running for office on either side of the aisle. And if you're getting the maximum amount from someone, and you need, the way the system's set up, you need that money to run, are you going to block legislation or try to fight them? Because then you won't get reelected, because you won't have the money. So the system's screwy from top to bottom. Also, another reason why this type of stuff maybe isn't catching on as fast is if you were exercising and you're hurting and you go into a store and there's nobody there that knows what they're talking about, but you have 20 feet of these things and you're picking up each one, reading it, screw the heck with it, I'm gonna go get my Advil.
Exactly, that's exactly true, Gary.
But-
Have you ever thought of running classes
Yeah,
for groups of people where
Yeah.
you can, because it seems so interactive and you have to be so in touch with your
and
own physiology.
there are homeopathy, if you go to the National Center of Homeopathy, they have focus groups, workshop groups all through the
Okay.
country. And they meet once a week or once a month, and some of them are very advanced, some of them are for the
Basic.
beginners.
Right.
And that's really a good way, because then you can talk about yourself, your family members, and everyone will help each other.
But then also you could be a more informed person coming in to talk to you.
Well, right, but also that's one of the things we pride ourselves on.
You're wonderful.
That we, if it's real in depth, you have to make an appointment.
Right.
But if it's something that's an acute problem, you come in and talk to one of us and we'll help you figure out what you need to do.
Are you the only naturopath here though?
Yes, but Jenna is very well
They're all-
informed
you're all
on
very
homeopathy, and some of the other ladies at the register know more than the basics, and what they can do is, they can figure out with you, is it something that this will be helpful, but they know if they don't know enough, they get the information and then get Jenna or I.
Okay.
And so it's good. Yes, Barbara?
I just have there's a doctor in Lexington who is treating children who have allergies to peanuts, tree nuts, and she's treating them homeopathically, and there's a 4-year waiting.
Yeah, there is.
Do you think there's something to that?
Yeah, and also there was
I read
something
that
in the
already.
paper and in the journals that they think the peanut allergy problem is because somebody a while ago said, don't give little kids peanuts
'Cause they'll
until
choke
they're
on
3
them.
years old. They're saying now, not a newborn, but the infants or the toddlers should be exposed to peanuts. And just very little bits, and slowly, if there's peanut allergy in the family, you wanna be careful, maybe have an EpiPen and work with a pediatrician. But if kids are exposed to it, they're finding there's much less allergies. And so now that we're banning peanuts everywhere, the allergy problem is exploding. So we're sort of fueling the problem. But
Is that by design?
I wouldn't say that. Am I thinking? But part of the thing is, you guys drive the market. So if you think about it, the organic foods you couldn't find, used to just be at Bread and Circus. And then organic apples were $4.99 a pound when regular apples were $1.99 a pound. The consumer demanded it. Stop and Shop has a big organic area, and when it's in season, the organic apples are maybe 20 cents, 30 cents a pound more. And there's all sorts of organic products around. There's a healthy food section. They're not doing that because they think it's the right thing to do. They might be, but I don't think so. They're doing it because you're demanding it, and they realize if they have a good spread, you're gonna go there instead of driving down to Whole Foods. And so you start demanding more holistic products, the stores are gonna start carrying it. The problem is, someone has to be, in the fruit store, you have a fruit guy that knows, you know, is cantaloupe running good? He knows. But in pharmacy, everyone is running around trying to stay alive and fill prescriptions. They don't have time to educate the staff to be able to help you. And that has to change. But if you guys demand it, any retailer that isn't doing it is out of their mind, and they deserve to go out of business because they're not giving the consumer what they want. So you guys can really get this going. Yes?
I think you alluded to the fact you have like a kit.
Yeah?
It seems that if you want to react quickly, you should have a certain kit. Because I got bit by a mosquito.
And you didn't have leader. Yeah.
A bee.
Yeah.
Mosquito.
So there are
I ended up in an
kits.
emergency room.
The problem is, there's the one that I have, it has 50 remedies, a little tiny vial, so you don't use that all the time. You use that, and then if you need the remedy, you go buy the big vial, one of the blue tubes. But the kit is a couple of $100. So a lot of people aren't gonna do that. But what you can also do is go through the buddy guide, the blue guide, because that's really the most commonly used remedies. And you can buy some of those vials and have them on hand. But having a kid is the right.
We always have indigestion.
Yeah. Well, then you have to change how you eat it.
So if you go over ice cream.
Yeah.
In terms of relative effectiveness,
Yeah.
dissolving sublingually versus just in your mouth, you lose a lot.
Sublingually is greater exposure, but with little kids, you tell them to hold it in their mouth. About 3 seconds later, they're chewing it. With animals, we'll take an apple, slice the apple, put the pellets in the apple, and give it to the horse to eat. She's not holding it under their tongue. Works fine. We're special. And so we have to do it a special way. So put it in your mouth or under the tongue. Hold it as long as, pull your hair out, because I gotta chew it. Because we all have to chew whatever's in our mouth. And so that's fine. You can even, some of like the Bach flower essences or homeopathically prepared essences, you can rub it where you put perfume. So behind the ears, on the pulse points, and it works fine. And in theory, some of the remedies, let's say for cold sores, you have it in liquid form, you put it under your tongue and put some drops right on the cold sore. Right, and with that, I'd ask you all to, it'll be all over.